Welcome to Radcast, the Random Ass Dudes podcast where absolutely nothing's off limits. Hosted by two guys with no script, no agenda, and no clue what's coming next. If it's random, it's fair game. Tune in, laugh with us, argue with us, or just wonder what the hell did I just listen to? New episodes come out weekly, and pure chaos is guaranteed.
I'm down, Kai. We got it, dude.
I could barely hear myself. That's not good.
Yeah. Does it sound better?
Yeah.
You guys sound
okay right now.
Do we all sound good?
Yeah, that's way better.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. Got to get that deep voice. Yeah.
Hey, my name's Brandon.
Awesome. So what episode is this now, Shane?
This is episode 6, 7, 8, 9. Episode 9.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's been going a month.
Yep. Pretty
It's
much,
a lot
man.
of recording in a month.
I know.
It's this guy. If it was up to me, we would do like 4 at a time. Shane's always wanting to record something.
It's fun though, man.
Yeah.
I like being in here and talking and like learning about other people.
Yeah. Today's a lot closer to you than it is to me.
Yeah. So today we have Brandon Mullen and Kai Bothwell, right? Did I say that right?
Bothwell.
Bothwell.
Yep.
Bothwell. My bad.
Yeah,
Might be.
No problem.
So all three of us are Journeyman Linemen. We all kind of came up differently. However, we do work for the same company now, which is pretty cool. I've known Brandon, since freshman year of high school. I just met Kai this year, but I feel like I've known him since we were kids, man.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Yeah. It's a brotherhood, so yeah, we all get along.
So like this episode, we really want to talk about, our trade, which is line work and stuff. I don't think it gets as enough recognition as a lot of trades out there. I think people forget who linemen are, how we have our lights on, how we maintain the system and everything like that. So starting with Kai, how long have you been in the industry or in the trade?
I started fresh out of high school. I was 18 years old, so we're going on 17 years now. And third generation, my grandfather, he was a lineman. My dad and uncle, they did it for a little bit, but they had some situations where they went a different route. But I was raised by my grandfather, and that was really the only option I had. I going through high school and going through school, I wasn't the best at the books and best at studying, and about sophomore year in high school, after seeing my grandpa, and every time we'd go on road trips and see the big lattice towers and all the power lines, and that's what our family talked about. My grandpa worked for the Department of Energy, building those power lines, and I just thought it was the coolest thing, and it was something that I could do. I like working with my hands. I like physical work, and I remember talking to my guidance counselor. They'd about junior year, they start getting you prepped for college and getting you going on your career path, looking at your grades and what classes to take. And I told them I want to be a lineman. And half the guidance counselor, they didn't know what it was. I had explained it. You want to be a football player? So, no, I want to build power lines. And like you said, man, it doesn't get the recognition, and that's why. And coming up through it, it's a hard trade. It's a 3.5 to 4.5 year apprenticeship. But just knowing that you're working on something that's the backbone of America. It literally, founded from the Industrial Revolution on. If it wasn't for electricity, like you said, we wouldn't have air conditioning. We wouldn't have you couldn't build the machinery to build the roads. You couldn't build the equipment and the cars, and electricity runs everything.
Yeah.
Turns everybody's lights on, turns the night into daytime, and turns the heat to cold. And what I really like about it is the fact that it's one of the last trades that hasn't really been changed and hasn't been manipulated in ways with safety. And yeah, they have put things in place, certain things, but we build power lines today the same way the guys did 100 years ago. And I'm kind of a history buff, and I like American history, and just the story of America, and knowing that, we still dig holes by hand if we have to. We set poles by hand, we climb them, we put our hooks on and climb the poles, and there's not really anybody who can tell you how to do that. There's, OSHA, they're over-regulate everything for good reasons. In certain industries, they tell you how to do things, but when it comes to line work, there's no one way to do it. There's 100 ways to do it, and the linemen become the engineers, and the linemen become the they have to play every role when it comes to building the power lines. And sorry, that's a long explanation of how long I've been in it, but I really am passionate for the trade and always have been. And like I said, it's something that I wake up every morning, I'm excited to go do it and make a difference. And from working storms to turning, whole communities to whole islands back on, where people are either freezing cold in the winter or they're on oxygen and their power's out because of a tornado or a hurricane, and being able to have pride and going in and like you said, we're kind of unsung, where that people, they just flip the switch inside their house or plug their phone in and boop, it turns on. Well, there's some guy out there that's risking it all to have that. So.
Well, and I think one of the things that you mentioned early on is, like you mentioned, the trade, right? And I don't know that enough people understand that this is part of the trade community. Like when we talk trades, because I'm in the trades more on the distribution and manufacturing side, but when we talk trades, it's plumbers, electricians, HVAC techs, right?
Yep.
But none of that gets done if there's no power from the main source, and that's where you guys are at. And we talk about all the time that the trades are dying.
Mm-hmm.
From a residential standpoint. What does that look like for you guys? Is that the same situation where there's just not the legacy of up and coming linemen?
I have heard that the people applying for the apprenticeship, the enrollment rate is down, and also the graduation rate is down. So there's less people coming in, and there's less people making it through the apprenticeship. I think it's 60% of apprentices, last I heard, don't make it through their whole apprenticeship. And I don't know if it's this younger generation and the way, people want everything fast and easy, and they don't want to have to actually do manual labor and work for it. But like you said, the trades are dying, but at the same time, it's if you're willing to put in the work, right now it's a real lucrative time to get into, whether it's welding, electrician, line work, HVAC, because there's less people willing to do it. And they're paying, these companies and these states are having to pay more to get guys out there. So if you're willing to put in the work and put your head down and put the time in, it can really be, it's a career path. College no longer is the only way. And, but there is a downfall, with applications, but, hopefully it turns. And that's why this podcast that you guys are doing and bringing attention to it. And every time I talk to anybody, I try to get them into the trade, and that's part of
same here.
Part of our upbringing is trying to, the more people you can bring in, and the stronger and the bigger you can get it, the better. So
I think what kind of gives us an uphill battle is not only is the generation after us that really doesn't want to do a whole lot of work, but dude, we're dealing with high voltage electricity, right? So there's like that part of it, right. And a lot of people are afraid of that stuff. And then you're dealing with heights.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? And a lot of people, they just can't deal with that. Yeah, so that's just two factors that's going against already people not wanting to work. Because there's probably some young men out there that are willing to put in the work, but can they get over the heights? Can they get over working with, 7,500 volts or, 345 kVA or whatever, So.
Well, not only that, it's to become a lineman, I think, you have to be, to me, I look at it like you have to be athletic. You have to be.
Yeah, there's physicality.
There's a huge physicality, and you have to be smart. Like, you can not be afraid of heights. You can climb, but you just don't have it up here. Would you? I mean,
Yeah.
you have to be. I mean, the training that we go through and the classes that we take. I mean, there's calculus. There's all kinds of theories, formulas. Like, and I didn't do good in school, but like I applied myself in the apprenticeship, and it's just you have to be. You can't be. I don't want to be mean about, but you can't be a dumbass. You have to be.
Oh, 100%.
It's like in my opinion, it's line work is top of the trades.
Yeah.
With the physicality, you just gotta we're good at everything.
Yeah.
Dumbass get you killed in your guys' line of work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Killed or sent down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
You hope that it sends you down the road by being a dumbass. Because the kind of power that you guys are dealing with, I mean, you get popped once and you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to work good under pressure and coming up and, guys they see, because it pays good and they see the nice big lifted trucks and the campers and all the toys and, people want to get in the trade. And like I said, I'm all for bringing people in, but I usually ask young guys, I ask them 2 questions. Well, how do I get into it? I ask them, 1, are you mechanically inclined? Do you do your own oil changes? Do you change your own? Can you rotate your tires? Are you able to mechanically work on things? That's a big qualification. And the second thing I always ask them is, it sounds kind of weird, but do you ride motorcycles or dirt bikes, or can you put yourself, because you almost have to be addicted to adrenaline. You almost have to be
absolutely
able to work under pressure, because when you're up there for hours on end, 100 feet in the air, 200,000 volts, you have to be able to harness that and turn that into, because it's almost a high when you're up there. Once you come down on the ground, it's the dopamine dump releases, and you realize the whole day you were just kind of elevated. And I grew up riding dirt bikes, and to me, it's a lot of the same thing, where you're riding a dirt bike across the desert doing 80 or 90 mile an hour. You have to be on point. You can't lose your focus. And that's, that was a couple qualifications. Did you grow up riding quads, dirt bikes, or do you like scaring yourself? Are you able to handle those high pressure situations or those dangerous situations? But if, and I'm not saying if you don't do those couple things, you can't make it. But if guys, they're scared to ride bikes or this or that, it's like, well, you're going to be scared once you get up there.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the idea that, you talk about riding dirt bikes and quads and all that stuff, is the split second reaction time too. Because I can't imagine that you would have a whole lot of time when things go bad.
When things go bad in our trade,
Yeah.
there is no time.
Yeah.
There's no time. It just happens.
Yeah.
The only thing that we can do is try to prevent that, or prevent us getting hurt, right?
Rubber gloves.
But you're
Rubber
called there
gloves,
because
yeah.
things have already gone bad.
Well, yes. If you're talking
Storms
a storm, things are bad. Don't get me wrong. However, we're taught to work safe, and work smart, right? So when we're going on a storm, mostly the electrical part of it is not going to be a factor, just because we have line fuses, we have reclosures, we have things that will kill the power for us to be able to work, right? But we're also working against backfeed, people putting generators on. If you're working in the Midwest with big ass trees and shit, trees will fall on the line, and that'll mess up the tension that you're working on, or broken poles that are all jacked up at the very bottom and stuff. So,
or California catch fire and take lines out for miles.
Yeah.
So have you all been on storm then?
Yeah.
Yes, I probably have done the least out of these two.
Yeah.
So how many years have each of you? So 17,
15.
15, and Shane, how long have you been in?
I think 8 or 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's some good tenure there. You guys have enough experience to speak on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Going back to kind of what you were saying earlier, is that the dropout rate, or whatever that would be, being that you guys have all gone through the process of going through the apprenticeship and going through the training, what do you think the biggest roadblock is for anybody to complete the training? And then what would be your piece of advice if somebody that is going to go through
Depending on the apprenticeship that you apply for, like if you do like Cal Nevada, or 769, 47, the biggest thing is the traveling. Like there's a big part of it. Like you're on the road a lot, like traveling, for what I did everywhere in California, parts of Nevada, and you're gone. It's work. And you have to sacrifice that. It's like military. You sacrifice that time, being away from your wife, your kids, or whatever. I would say that's because, the younger kids, they come in, they've never left home. Right. So the very first night, they're all beside themselves. They're like, and you got this mean journeyman telling you to, beating the shit out of you with words like, get over here, get over. It's just, if you can handle that and just grind and work and stay positive, then I think you have a pretty good chance. But the travel side, it's rough. It's a high divorce rate. Our trade it's one of the highest, like where marriages don't work. And,
I know. I can speak from experience. Like when I was before we moved back to Arizona, I was chasing storms, dude, and I was probably home in 1 month, like 4 days. Yeah. And and I was tunnel vision, dude. I'm like, I'm gonna get
money.
Yeah, make money. We're moving, And Natalie had to sit me down and say, pretty much say, dude, you gotta calm down. Like, I need you home sometimes.
There's some responsibilities here.
Yes. Yeah. She's like, you gotta know where that balance is. She didn't tell me don't go on storm.
Right.
She just said like, you need to find a balance so that way I'm not losing my mind taking care of 4 kids and doing everything on my own.
Well, I think that's the other part that people don't consider when you're talking about failure rate and stuff like that is that, you guys being gone is not just pressure on yourself, it's pressure on those that you leave behind.
Mm-hmm.
And when you mentioned the military, that kind of clicked a little bit. You were in the Navy. I don't know if you guys were in the military at all.
Navy.
Yeah, so thinking like you're leaving your family there too. And going back to what you were saying, there's the young person that gets out and is like, I want to go do this. And now you're out of mommy and daddy's house and they're not doing your laundry for you. They're not making your dinner. They're not waking you up in the morning. Now all of a sudden you go from being a kid to I'm a grown ass man that has to take care of myself, and I'm in a state that I don't know. And I'm in a situation around people that I don't know. That to your, what you were saying, verbally beating the shit out of you to try to get you prepped. That's a lot to take.
Oh yeah.
So when you said you started, right? You didn't just start your apprenticeship. You started as a groundman, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, all 3 of us have kind of came up differently. Like, so Kai came up as a groundman. He started as a groundman.
So what does that mean?
It's in other trades they call it like a jobber or a laborer. You're basically or a grunt.
Right.
Yeah, you're digging the holes. You're the whipping boy. And there's some guys that they're professional groundmen. That's all they do because they don't want to go any further or they're afraid of heights or electricity. But when I came up, line school wasn't around. It wasn't a thing, and it was kind of the standard to do your groundman. Make sure you're dipping your toes in to make sure that it's a good fit and see if it's something that you can handle, and then from there. And that's the way I recommend guys getting into it now is if you can try to get into a groundman position and then get to know people, get to make sure you like it, and then apply for the apprenticeship.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's weird now. Have you heard they got pre-apprentices?
Yeah.
So they're like the new groundmen, right? The pre-apprentice?
Yeah. That's the kind of, I think, weed out the people that just probably shouldn't be here.
Signing the books.
Yeah.
Yeah. And groundmen do everything on the ground. They don't go up in the air.
Okay.
Yeah. It's their job to learn the material, how the linemen like it. But that's the way. I didn't start out as a groundman. I went to NLC. You went to NLC, right?
No. I went into NALTC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Up in Northern Cali, that's where I went, and that's how I started. I didn't know. I wasn't mechanically inclined. I was all right. My dad is.
No, you weren't.
No, I wasn't, right?
Yeah. You weren't.
I mean, I was more new, but
not really.
Okay. No. And it was. the school was great for me because it taught me how to roll up a hand line. It taught me to hold a hammer and to
not to look like an idiot when you're out there with the crews,
because you could definitely tell where somebody has no experience. It's pretty comical. I know it's not right to laugh, but it's you have to have some sort of experience going into to flourish and do good, and because if you don't, then you're going to struggle.
Well, that also kind of depends on the crew that you're on. You know what I mean? There's some guys that still have that old school mentality. Yeah. It's beat them down. They're not shit. You know. And I kind of came up with all the linemen that I came up with. They weren't like that, man. It was they held me accountable. You know, they taught me everything, and they're only going to teach you as much as whatever you put into it, right? Sure. If you're a dirtbag and you're not, down there on the ground picking up trash, getting everything ready, get the trucks ready, getting material ready, they're not going to put. If you're not doing that, they're not going to put the effort into teaching you or giving you a little bit more knowledge. They're just going to be all right, well, you don't want to put work into whatever you got to do, then I'm not going to put work into you.
Well, no matter where you're at, right? It's manage them up, manage them out, right? If you're going to give me the effort, then I'm going to put you in positions to be successful. You're not going to give me the effort. I'm going to figure out how to get you off the team. And I can't imagine, especially with what you guys are dealing with, there is no managing somebody that's inadequate. That person's going to end up.
They're going to take them out,
right?
Killing themselves, or they'll take
somebody
themselves
else
out,
right?
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine.
I know that there is a hot topic out there in in the lineman forums and stuff about going to line school or not going to line school. What are your guys' perspective on that?
I've seen both ways work and not work. Like I said, it's hard to get a groundman position. I honestly think that's the best way because you're put out there, you're put on the spot, and because you can spend a bunch of money going to line school and you can sit and do the climbing and stuff, but until you get out on the job site, it's a totally different ballgame. I've seen guys come out of line school and they have this false perception of what the trade actually is. And like you said, there's a lot of linemen out there, and that goes back to the old school mentality of it's all about respect and busting your butt and they treat you hard but they also they're trying to break you. They got a couple years because they don't want to be up in the air with somebody who's going to lose their shit, who can't handle the pressure. So there is pressure. A good lineman is going to put pressure on their apprentice, but they're going to be respectful. They're going to teach them. But when I interviewed for my apprenticeship, I went in there and it must have been right when line school was starting, and there was a couple fresh graduates, and they showed up to the apprenticeship wearing a button-up shirt, their loafers, pressed pants, like they're going in for a job interview. I just flew in from Texas off the right-of-way doing 230 K structures hot as a grunt, and I show up to the apprenticeship interview. I got wearing an FR shirt, hole in my shirt, hole in my pants, boots, dusty, sunburnt, and probably half hung over. And out of 8 of us, I was the only one who got the apprenticeship. All these guys that just came out of line school, they didn't get accepted. Yeah. So, but I'm not saying that line school is a bad thing. It's definitely a way to get your foot in the door, and it also depends on. There's 2 big differences with line work. There's what we call outside construction, where you're working for a contractor, and then there's inside where you're working for a utility. California Edison, out here is APS SRP, and or Excel Energy out in Texas and New Mexico, and they have a whole different process of tailoring guys to come up through, and they almost have their own schools internally a lot of times. But when it comes to the outside, like I said, I think it more depends on the individual. And I know there are some halls that are shying away. There was a requirement you had to go to line school before you could even apply. And then now I think the locals around here, they're kind of backing away from that. Like Brandon said, now it's just a pre-apprenticeship because they were seeing these kids come out of these schools and they were putting them on right away. And then once they got out on the job site, it was like, no, this isn't quite, isn't for them like they thought it was in school.
Yeah.
Before we get Brandon's, let me just check the camera.
Okay.
We'll just cut this piece up. I just want to make sure, since we have that battery pack on there.
You want to turn that fan too?
Tangled up.
How's it going so far? Do I seem nervous?
No.
Huh?
Do I seem nervous?
Your nipples are
No,
hard, but-
dude.
Yeah. Good.
I mean,
I'm
dude,
fucking
you're
dying over
sweating
here.
so
I'm
bad on
fucking
your
freezing.
Are you
dude,
still
your
cold?
armpit.
I'm freezing.
Really?
You don't hear me shivering?
No.
No, I don't. You're doing a good job of holding it in.
Yeah, just keep doing that.
Yeah. So, hey, just laugh that way.
Okay.
All right. So we heard Kai's perspective on trade school or not trade school, right?
Yeah.
Starting in the field or going through line school. So, Brandon, what's your opinion on that?
It's like with anything else. It's like who you know. If you can get into even being a groundman, it's hard. Like for me, I did the line school because I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything about the trade really.
What's your way in?
It was my way. I paid for a way in. Line school, it taught me like material, like how to roll up a hand line, simple stuff like that. But like, do you need it? No. It's like 2-3 months long anyways, and you're not going to learn the most like you would like if you're on a real crew. But like I said, I paid for it. If that's what you got to do, then that's what you got to do. It's any way you can get in, find a way, talk, sign the books. And you really have to you have to hustle. Like I've had a lot of people like they'll message me or whatever on Facebook like, hey, like how do you get in? Like because they probably they know like the money aspect or whatever. It's always the money.
Everybody looks at the finance piece.
The money is awesome and it's amazing, but it's a whole it's a life. It's a different life. And you have to hustle. It's not going to come to you. Like there's things you have to do. Like you have to get your high school transcripts. There's legwork to be done before you even want to go into a line school. You have to do work. A lot of them require to have your CDL permit. Like there's just any way you can get in. I don't think any way's better. Obviously, if you know somebody and you can get in, go that route. Don't waste your money on line school. But it's just for each individual, however they come up. Like Kai, his grandpa, his family in the trade. Like it was probably you have hookups versus like me. I didn't know anybody. Again, so I paid for that line school just to get the interview.
Sure.
And then when I did the interview, same thing. There's like people in tuxes, business suits, and I'm like, what? Are we applying for the same thing here? And I just left line school, and I was lucky. I got an interview with Cal Nevada right after. I was like, and they asked me questions, and I was like number 3 out of like 500. I don't know what I said or what I did, but pretty much they're like, can you climb a route? I'm like, well, I brought my tools with me. I could show you right now. Like, I'm ready. I just came from NLC. I was like, I can climb. And they're like, oh, okay. And then that was that.
Yeah.
I was.
And your apprenticeship is pretty difficult to get into, right? The Cal Nevada, like that's pretty.
Yeah, there's like, so because the thing is that I don't understand is like, there's a shortage of linemen for sure, a big shortage, but Cal Nevada has like 5,000 applicants. Like they cut off the because they don't want to accept anymore because there's already so much. But that just, and with social media and TikTok, people see like videos of like the helicopters,
right.
and it seems cool to them, like
Glorified, right?
Glorified.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like make
I'm
a
gonna
lot
go
of
do
money.
that.
I'm gonna go do that. Yeah, like awesome. But they don't see all the. It's cool and it seems cool, but there's so much more to the trade that's, I don't want to say like sucks and talk bad, but is hard. Like
Sure.
it's hard work. Like your body. I mean, I'm 39.
Damn.
I mean,
I don't
my
wanna hear any shit.
yeah. See, and we talked before on this. My shoulders are just annihilated. But I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, difference between line school and being, coming up as a grunt. But the one thing that you mentioned, and I think this is a missing component for anybody that's coming out of high school or getting ready to start their career, is you mentioned it being a lifestyle. It really doesn't matter what you're going to go do. It's a part of your lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's inevitable that it kind of starts to direct the way that you're going to live the rest of your life. So knowing that, I mean, Shane, you went through line school. Like, how the hell did you even get started there? Who do you know that?
I just knew from Brandon.
Okay.
Yeah, so Brandon was going through his apprenticeship, and he called me. He's like, "Dude, you have to be a lineman. Like this is what you should do. Like, I know you would do a good job, blah blah blah." And when he first called me about it, I'm like, "Well, what's a lineman?" And he's like telling me, and then I'm like, "Okay." And then I just kind of put it off to the side, right? And I was like, "Whatever, I'm gonna try to do my own thing." Well, I'm married, 4 kids deep, you know what I mean? And I was just kind of stuck at a job. I'm like, man, I got to do something, man. I need to provide for my family. So then I went back to calling Brandon again, and then I was like, all right, well, what do I got to do? Well, asking Brandon what to do is like cutting teeth on an alligator, man. It's like, so I had to go find a different route, you know what I mean? So I ended up selling my house. We moved in with my in-laws, or the family did, and then I used that money to go to line school in Tennessee. And for me, it worked out great for me, right? Because it put me in a position where there was a utility in Indiana, Duke Energy. They were hiring, and I went through that whole hiring process, and I just feel like that's where God wanted me to be. Because if not, I mean, the other option was graduating and coming back to Arizona and hoping that APS or SRP hires me, or going to the hall and trying to figure all that out. But I think, I think there's multiple ways of getting in this trade. You could do how Kai did, become a groundman, right? You could do what me and Brandon did, go through line school. But at the end of the day, the most important thing of getting in is getting your CDL. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm like the same with Brandon. So many people has reached out to me. Hey, how do I become a lineman? Do you have a CDL? No. Go get a CDL.
Is that just because of the size trucks you guys drive?
Yeah, because they got air brakes and stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, anything over 26,000 pounds.
And I found that's the easiest barrier to entry. That was my same answer, other than the motorcycle, the mechanically inclined. And they're like, okay, yeah, I can do it. It's like, all right, go get your CDL, and I'll tell you what the next steps are. Never hear from them again.
Never.
It's like, if you can't go through and go get your CDL, then you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 2 people that have reached out to me and that have followed through out of dozen people that have. One, Shane, and Chris Smothers.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like, you have to have your CDL. Like, get your CDL first. If you do that, then I'll help. Then I'll give you more information on that's going to show me that
prove that you're
invested,
that right?
You're vested.
Yeah.
Shane did it, Chris did it, but everybody else, it's like you don't hear from them again.
Yep.
Like, they don't go.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by, like, there's things you have to do to get in place to even consider you want to be a groundman or go to line school. You have to have, like, you got to start before to get things in place to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. So, growing up around it, right? So my grandfather was my hero too. So knowing that was kind of the inspiration for you, what did you see in kind of what you saw in him that was like, I got to go do that?
Well, my grandpa, he was just he was a great guy. Never told a lie in his life, and he was the pillar to our family. Mm-hmm. And him working on power lines was that's what the whole family was based around. And he did work for Department of Energy, and before that it was the Bureau of Reclamation, before Department of Energy took it over. And he was a lineman on the outside after he served in the Korean War, and then he got hired on with the government and was doing the transmission, all the big stuff, the big 500,000 volts, 345,000 volts coming out all the hydro dams, like Hoover Dam, Parker Dam. And fast forward in 40 years, and that's where I got hired on it. I ended up going out. I came back from tramping. He was having some health issues, and luckily, like Brandon said, it's all you know. The apprentices that he brought up were now in charge over at Department of Energy, and he was able to make a couple phone calls, and that's where I ended up meeting Brandon at. Because Brandon, he's a veteran, and the Department of Energy hires and respects the veterans and brings them on before anybody else, and but yeah, just seeing how much pride our family had in the trade, and like I said, taking road trips and seeing those big steel towers out there in the middle of the desert. Knew Grandpa used to build those, and Grandpa hangs on those, and I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I just there was nothing you could have done that there was nothing else I wanted to do. There was no other option. That's what I was doing.
It's cool to know that at a very early age you figured that out. Now, Brandon, you didn't have that same experience. So what one day you just woke up and was like, I'm going to go to high school?
Well, so when I got out of the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of sitting limbo for a couple months, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I know I'm not the smartest guy, and I'm not the best communicator, talker. So I knew and I wanted to do something like adrenaline, to get me going, like something fun, hard, challenging. And how I came about it was, I don't read books or anything, but there was a Reader's Digest magazine on the table, and this is back in when the housing crisis,
Like 2008.
Yeah, like best jobs to have like during economic times or whatever. I saw a nurse on there, and then I saw a lineman, and it's with the lineman, it says, it's hard. The success rate is not very high, but it's unlimited work. It's very good. And I'm like, man, well, I could do that. Kind of being cocky. I'm like, I could do that. I know I can. And then I did it. NLC, I submitted my transcripts to get into the school. And ever since then, it's the best decision I made. I just knew I like the adrenaline part, and I wanted to talk on that. When you say different breed or whatever, it's a lifestyle, and you have to be it could be a dangerous lifestyle.
Sure.
For me, for instance, the addiction to go, the adrenaline,
Right.
the danger, and then it becomes a lifestyle, and you do that on your day to day. You have to have an even keel with the lifestyle, because there's drugs in the
I
trade.
was just going to ask, is there a dark
Yeah.
side to the
There's-
adrenaline pump?
yeah,
Right?
oh, yeah.
Like
Yes.
the trades, typically.
And I wanted to put that out there, because just so people are aware, if they've had prior problems before getting in, but it's out there, and it's just something I wanted to touch on, because it's important to me. I've gotten kind of mixed up before in it, and it's just, I don't know. What do you think? I mean, we've talked about this. You can probably say it better than I can.
Well, yeah, I think it comes with the trade. I mean, especially and goes back to what aspect of the trade you're in. There's the guys that work at the utilities, that work 4 days a week, go home every day to their family, and that's very respectable, and they're doing a good job. The other aspect of the trade where I came up was we were in a new town every month. I was from Texas to New Mexico to Hawaii to Georgia all over the place. And you're in a town for a month or two, working 6-7 days a week, 10, 12-hour days. And the guys you're working with are your family, and they're your brothers. And we're all we're like pirates out there. It's just we're making good money. There's no one to answer to. We're doing work that 99% of people don't want to do. We go into these small towns and kind of raise havoc and have a good time doing it. And to be in this trade and to be, like Brandon said, into that adrenaline and being able to, you got to have maybe a little screw loose here or there. And it kind of, the drinking, going out with the guys out at the bars, and the bar leads to other things. And it's a fine balance. And like Brandon said, there's been a lot of challenges in that aspect all the way through the apprenticeship. And that's going back to what you said, or you asked, a while back, about what's the biggest challenge for these young kids. And like I said, just keeping your nose clean, don't be chasing women around, have your fun. But there's a lot of guys in the trade that they just go for it. They work hard, they play hard, and
Right.
you got to find that balance.
Well, because of the finances behind it, right? Is you go from, maybe not making a whole lot of money to making damn good money, and now you're in towns where I would imagine you guys are on, the companies are paying your way while you're out of town.
Per diem.
So now you have expendable funds. You're young, you're on per diem, and you're an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah. I would say to people too that are listening to this that like, oh damn, I don't know if I can handle all that. You
Right.
don't, for me, I'm not into all that. I'm not into going out drinking, doing drugs and all that. I want to go work. I want to go to my bed, and I want to get my 8 hours of sleep. You know what I'm saying? And when you're on a good crew, and I think there's more good crews out there than not, right? They will be respectful in that, hey, you guys go have fun. I'm going to go to bed, and if you're bunking with a guy that does go out, just make sure you tell him like, hey, try to be quiet when you come in,
Right.
So yes, that is a lifestyle, but it also doesn't have to be a lifestyle.
Sure.
Right. So
Well, it's no different than riggers, right? Like, I think like the oil field, kind of what you were explaining to me, almost seems like the oil field guys, where when they're off shift, those guys are wilding out, right? But they don't have to. They show that part of it, but how many of them just go home to their wives and their kids, or just to their bunks? So
well, a lot of that experience, like for me, was like chasing storms. You know what I'm saying? Like when you go chase a storm, you're gonna be on a crew with a guy that you probably never even met. You don't
Right.
even know, right? So like you're trying to get to know these people as you're working with them, as you're, sleeping, eating, working, like. So I don't know.
And two, we're human. Like when you work, like the countless hours, there's a time where you crash. Like where, back then when I was like to work 40 hours, you needed something like, and that's the difference between like you came up utility and the outside.
Yeah.
Is on outside, it's rougher. Like utility, you get the good work. I'm not knocking utility or anything, but like you get the easy work, like the easy pull sets, the easy.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I came up in a utility. The utility guys get to pick what they want to do. Like there was one time a storm came in, and we literally just drove around all night and did not do one thing. We just like, that's for the contractors.
Yeah.
That's for the contractors. And I mean, I'm an apprentice at the time, right? We're just sitting at a substation, just like,
Yeah, it
I'm
is for
just
the
watching
contractors.
Netflix movies. Like, man, I'm getting paid how much for this?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just the difference between contracting and utility, and everybody. It's not like that for everybody. All I'm saying is it can be part of the trade. It's not like that everywhere. You can come up outside and be. I mean, he did. I did. We're good. But it's just something to be aware of. And there's all kinds of different ways you can. I mean, there's even like co-ops. It's not just utility or there's co-ops.
There's also like non-union. We're all union linemen. We're all journeyman linemen, right? But
I don't
there's also,
suggest non-union though.
So I have like a little mix on that. Like, so I think it all kind of depends on like where you live, right? Because some guys, they live in the South where the union's not big, but they want to be close to home, and if that's what you want to do, man, you got to do what's best for your family,
Right.
So, but I would highly suggest to go union if there is a union within your community of where you're at.
So for those that don't know the difference between union and non-union work, What does that look like?
You hit that one, Kai.
Well, like Shane said, back east, Florida and down south, the unions aren't as prevalent there. And basically, if you're able to join a union, you're able to, you have representation. You're able to get a job at any time. You can, you go and sign the books, and the day if you get laid off or want to quit a job, you go down in the hall, sign the books, and they'll have a job sitting there waiting for you. They know your classifications. They know what apprenticeship you went through. And there's a standard that the contractors have to pay. And that's probably one of the biggest parts is it's been bargained, and it's since the 1800s, the IBEW has been fighting for fair wages, safe practices, and that's why our wage is the way it is because we've had solidarity and been able to go to these power companies and these utilities and say, hey, you guys want this work done? Well, this is what we're risking, and this is what we're going to get paid for it. And, the IBEW is one of the strongest unions out there, next to the longshoremen, and those guys are a powerhouse union that are running the ports. And in my eyes, the IBEW is right there with them. And it gives you all the overtime pay. It gives you the holiday pay. And if you have grievances with the company, if the company's screwing you over or not doing something safe, you're able to go to the hall and have representation there. They give you benefits with retirement and health insurance. I mean, my health insurance is phenomenal. It's some of the best out there. And just it's part of the brotherhood. If you see another union member, another union guy, we're out doing a job the other day, and retired IBEW member out of 640. He's in his 80s. He came up and just shook my hand, and we sat there and BS for 20 minutes. Never met the guy in my life. But it's when you're in that union, it's solidarity. And like Shane said, there are guys that are down south and different parts that there is some conflict there. I've worked storm back east in the Georgia area, and where there's some hostility there because you'll have the union contractors and the non-union contractors, and there's people get salty because of the wages that we're making or they're not making, but like I said, I always recommend the union. I'm third generation IBEW, but like I said, there are some places where it's just not available to people. And
what would be the reason people would choose not to participate if they were in an area that had it?
There's some, like the state of like Arizona, California, a lot of these states out here, like you have to. There's no power company that are allowing non-union workers on site. It's just written because if they allow non-union contractors on site, they're going against a contract that they have in place with the union. So if you're in a union heavy state, the non-union guys can't even come in and bid the work.
Okay.
When I was chasing storms and stuff, there was I worked for Praxel. They started off as a storm chasing company, and their home base is in London, Kentucky, which a lot of these linemen that I worked with were non-union, right? But then, Dylan, he's the one that made Praxel. He started off as a non-union lineman, and then he jumped over to the union, and he saw how like the wages were a lot better, the whole representation. Well, working with these guys, I like asked them, how come you didn't go union sooner? And a lot of it too is the older generation linemen that they're working with, right? Like their whole thing is, why do I have to pay to work? Why do I have to?
Part of the union.
Yeah, you got to pay dues, right? You got your working dues, and then you have your monthly dues for your local, right? But that was their whole thing. Is like, well, I'm not going to pay to work. You don't have to do that, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, man, like the union is the one that's setting the wages out here, because we're the ones that are fighting for higher wages. If a lot of these non-union companies have to compete with the union wages. Otherwise, they're not going to get linemen for shit. So,
and typically non-union versus union's safer non-union, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but like a lot of the times when they go through, they go and they do things cheaper, but they just go and blow through, and they typically have a lot more deaths, accidents.
I would say that the
More
union
regulated.
has a little bit more pride into their work.
They
Right.
produce better linemen, and
However, they like
more training.
I've worked with guys that started off non-union, and I've probably worked with some of the best linemen that I've worked with, being in this trade for such a short time. And then I've also worked with union guys that are just complete dog shit, dude. You know, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's really, to me, in my opinion, it's really not a union or non-union thing. It's a person thing when it
Sure.
comes to that. You know what I mean?
Like anything else.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're gonna get out what you put in.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But when it comes to the company mentality, I think that's what you're talking
Well,
about.
I
right?
guess what I'm saying is like when they'll scoop all those NLC guys.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
just they'll hire all of them,
yeah.
and then within a matter of weeks or whatever, they'll have them up in the primary
Right.
doing primary. And we all know,
Yeah.
you can't do primary work in a matter of weeks.
And that's the biggest difference, I think, is that the non-union, they don't have a standardization to an apprenticeship, and they'll fudge hours. Every state, every county you go to, they're like, oh, this guy, he's a journeyman, so that guy's only been doing it for 10 months, but they need a journeyman on this job, so all of a sudden he's a journeyman. Like Brandon said, he'll be up there working primary voltage, tens of thousands of volts, and boom, someone gets zapped, and it's a lot more loosey goosey when it comes to how they bring guys up.
And there is really good linemen that are non-union.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the best linemen I've ever worked with was non-union. He was awesome.
No, I was union.
I had no comeback.
That was coming at some point.
Like, dang it.
Yeah.
No, I hired in with two guys that was it with the non-union outfit out there in Indiana, dude, and they were there for like 3 or 4 months, maybe a little bit longer, already in 3-phase primary. You know, and I know you don't. I know, but well, think about it. Like this little line out here, that's 7,200 volts. Okay. Well, picture 2 more of those, and that are like, I don't know, maybe 4 feet apart, right? And when you don't know what you're doing, and you're right up in there, that's a dangerous situation to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's suicide.
And I just wanted to throw it out there is, the unions, they get a bad rap. There's a lot of, it gets political but not all unions are created equal. There's the Cookers Union and the Teamsters Union that represents warehouse workers, and people make their comments, a union job, I'm going to take my union smoke break and this and that, and not all unions are created equal. When it comes to a trade union, it's different than, I'm not knocking anybody else, but it's different than someone who's doing a menial task in an office that's represented by a union, or there's differences in unions. So people hear the word union and they instantly get turned off, or everybody has a comment, and we get it all the time. But like I said, I'd put my brothers and the guys I work with against anybody. That we're the hardest working guys out there. We get the job done the best, safest, and we take pride in our work. And you can't just put this blanket statement on all unions that they're all like that, because they're not. There's a lot of corruption in unions, and they play their games and they're politicking, but I just don't want people to get turned off from the trade and things like that because they hear union and my dad hates unions, and they charge too much and they don't do nothing, and they're always sitting on their ass, 5 guys for doing a one-man job, and it's not like that with the IBEW. It's a total, like Shane said, there's a lot of pride, and we just get the job done. So
I do want to piggyback off of what Kai was talking about, the unions getting to go sign the books. Not like, so we could sign the books here at 769, right? We could also go to California and go sign the books. We could go to New York.
What does that mean when you sign the books?
To get a job.
Okay.
So
be contracted out.
Yeah, so like we could go to different locals, right? And our ticket follows us, right?
Okay.
And that's something that the non-union does not. I don't think they have. It's like you obviously you're as a non-union guy, you're probably networking, right? But for us, we don't really have to network a whole lot. I mean, we still have to network, but still, like, I could go freely go to Florida, local
Just sign the
222,
book and get put on
sign
a
the
job.
books, yeah,
And that's a good for if you want to get into the trade. A positive side is once you get on, you're never going to be out of work, and you can go anywhere, any state, anywhere. Like, oh, I want to move to Tennessee next year. You can go there, and you can get on doing line work anywhere. Like, it's one of the best. They need linemen everywhere. And the pay too is, so people know, like California, I mean, you can, what are they at? 72 an hour?
Yeah, something like that, I think.
Our raise is what, 62 here
tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Texas is a little low, not a little, they're probably like at 40. So it's everywhere you go, it's different.
Yeah.
Different
and like
pay.
each local
changes.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And also each local will have their different rules too, right? Like they all kind of are under the IBEW, but each local will kind of have their own little rules of like what they allow, and that's all with the whole contract, right? All that is negotiated,
But it's not negotiated by individuals, it's negotiated by a board or something like that, right?
Right, that local board, yeah.
And who nominates the board?
The members.
The members.
Yeah, they're all voted on. Yeah, and there's monthly meetings every month, and they vote on everything, and like going back what Brandon says, you put in that 3-4 years in your apprenticeship, you get that ticket in your hand. To me, that's worth more than any diploma, in my eyes, a doctorate, because we're making more money than a lot of doctors out there, and you will have a job till the day you die, and no one's going to take that ticket from you as long as you pay your dues. Like Shane was saying, those guys, they bitch about their dues. It's usually 1 hour or an hour and a half wage per month. So if you're making $60 an hour, your dues are usually $60 a month, and I'd gladly pay that to hold that ticket.
Know that you're always going to have a job.
Yep. And we might get into it, but I got out of the trade for a couple years, and I was happy to write that check every month and pay those dues, because they made my life for me. And you'll never be out of work, and you can go to any state. You can go up into Canada. I've got guys that moved overseas to Europe, and that IBEW ticket still worked over there. So I mean, it opens up doors, and you're set for the rest of your life. You put your head down and do those 3-year, 4-year apprenticeship, you're set.
Can you guys remember the day you topped out after taking the tests, the journey?
Oh,
it was, besides having my 2 kids, it was the best day of my life. Just because I knew, I'm like, this ticket means this is my life.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember passing it.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, when I remember that day because I sent you that picture.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing you told me was nobody could ever take that away from you.
Yeah, nobody could take that away
and
from you.
I was like, damn, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this trade, we also talked about, like, safety.
Yeah.
Right? Do you guys have any because, like, I know I'm going to just start off by, like, my experience. Going through the apprenticeship, they've always talked about safety, right? But it doesn't really hit you until you're actually in it, right? So, like, my first safety incident was we were on a single phase line. It was like 6 solid copper. We were changing out a pole. The other apprentice hooked on to the line and then was booming it out, right? And there was like an automatic down there, and there's our lineman was like right underneath the line, just kind of guiding the apprentice, and then guiding the pole. Well, that automatic ended up failing, and it started falling. And I'm over here with I had the transformer on my jib. And I'm sitting here watching all this happen, and all of a sudden I see the lineman just start running, right? And I'm like, what the fuck? And then the line just starts falling down, and I was like, holy shit! And it smacks the neutral, and you just see that quick spark. But that moment right there was like my okay, like this shit's real. Like it could get ugly real fast.
I got a wife and kids. I got to go home too.
Yeah.
Make sure that
Do you guys have any crazy stories like that or crazier?
I've known nothing really crazy on the job. I mean, we've had incidences like that, but like as far as like I came up through my apprenticeship in my class, there was 3 guys that died. They didn't top out. They died. His name was Brandon, Kyle, and this guy Todd. And I wasn't there on the job, but like it can get real like anytime. I've been secondary fire. You know, I think we've all had secondary fire. That's part of like coming up.
Yeah.
But, I haven't came across anything really crazy. Like, luckily, you know, no deaths or anything. But they're definitely just the other week that APS. Or that it was non-union, right?
Yeah, it's still under investigation. Yeah, but
I was telling you about it happened on APS property.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and but yeah, I mean, I've known a couple guys who've passed away in the trade that I've known, and later down the line they've passed away with accidents on the trade, and I've been involved in several, not deaths, but you know, all different ones from guys falling off. We were on a helicopter job in Hawaii, and it's a Baker board. It's a fiberglass board that you work when you're working energized wires. You're isolated on this piece of fiberglass, and you never think in a million years anything would happen. Well, the fiberglass board snaps, and that's what he was tied off to, and he fell 40 foot, broke his femur. Damn. And it was a long line job, so we had to bring the helicopter in. The best helicopter pilots out there are these guys that are doing this aerial line work. They had to pick him up. They brought him in. The helicopter pilot set him right in the back seat of the truck, leg dangling, and another job out there in Texas. And this is, you know, where I get a little salty with the non-union and these guys that come up. There's some states allow what's called a white ticket, where you can be non-union, you can have experience and try to prove your experience, and you challenge a test, and you can now work on a union job. But you didn't serve a proper union apprenticeship, but people vetted for you. You did a climbing test at the hall, and I think the wages are usually a little bit lower, but certain states, especially 10, 15 years ago, they were hurting for work and hurting for guys, and we had a couple instances on this job, but there's a he was a white ticket, and we were kind of like what Shane was saying, we're on a 3-phase primary, probably 24,000 volts. And I was up in the bug. I was still an apprentice at the time, and the wires were crossing over each other. It's called a buck or a T. And the non-union guy, and I had my head in between 2 energized phases. We were spreading it out. We're moving the wires, or 3-4 feet apart from each other. Well, the white ticket was in a bucket truck about 4 feet away from me, and he was spreading a different circuit above us. I don't know what happened, what he was thinking, but he had a ground in his hand that was still connected to a neutral, a ground, and he just dropped it on the phase about 1.5 feet from me. And there was a ball of fire about the size of a VW bug, and scorched the whole side of my face. It looked like I was laying on my side at the beach for 2 days.
That's an ass whooping there.
Oh man!
Did you do it?
Oh, it was, yeah, it got bad. It was a bad deal, and it once you hear that noise, I've had a few primary fires or been witness a few primary fires. You hear phase to phase of 20,000 volts, 40,000 volts, that noise that it makes. Yeah, you'll never
red dragon.
You'll never forget it. Yeah, you see the dragon, and after that incident, we had a few circuit trips on that job, and I came home that weekend because they shut the job down. I had to go get checked out. I didn't make contact, but it was just the flash. It's called a flash. It's a welder's arc the size of a car. It's not a campfire when you have a electrical fire. It's a welder's arc.
Have you ever seen one? Like, you looked it up? Yeah, it's pretty gnarly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Or just like opening up cutouts.
Yeah.
I remember I had to close a switch, and my lineman Kenny, he was like, "You better make sure you have it on there, man." Oh, I had a load buster. I'm sorry, I was opening it, and you put it up on the horn there. You clip it in the
Then you have
clip.
to twist it.
Yeah, and so like what I did was instead of just pulling straight down, I lifted up and it took that little clip off there, and then I just opened it without the load buster, and you just hear,
Yep.
and then he just looks at me and goes, "You are one dumb motherfucker, aren't you?" Sorry.
Yeah, it's open though.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But,
No, it's cool to hear, and I'm obviously not from it, and it's neat to learn more about what you guys do and how you've gone through it and stuff like that. So knowing that the finances are obviously good, I know that you've started another business as well, right? Talk to us a little bit about that. Bothwell, it's Bothwell Transport.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that I guess, has this industry created an opportunity for you to start that, or how did that start?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's exactly right. I never thought, in a million years that I'd own a trucking company, but about 8-9 years ago, my fiance at the time, her dad was a truck driver, and he was getting screwed over by all these different trucking companies, and they wouldn't pay him right, and the trucks would always break down, and she started telling me about being an owner operator, and once again, the trucking industry, that's another backbone of America. Everything we touch, see, use are on trucks, and like we were saying earlier, I've had a CDL. I've hauled, doing line work, I've hauled dozers on flatbeds across the country and big poles, and so I know how to drive a semi truck. I'm decently mechanically inclined, so it kind of started making sense. Like, okay, let's buy a truck, put your dad in it, and he's out across the country. She can kind of run the business, and so I stayed doing line work, and I was able to have the finances to purchase a truck, get it going. It was started with it was a $10,000 truck, nothing crazy. It was a semi truck, an old one. It was probably 10 years old at the time, a 1,000,000-mile truck. But we got going doing that, and I stayed doing line work, and that was about the time I got hired on with the government, and so we were working 410s, which I was never used to. I'm used to working 612s, 712s, and I had no spare time to do anything except drink beer. And now I'm sitting there for 3-4 days twiddling my thumbs, and I drive me crazy. So now we had something else. I had these trucks I can work with, and one truck turned into 2 or 3 trucks, and 3 trucks turned into 5, and we got all the way up to 15 trucks, and once we got to about 10 trucks, that's when we got about 10 trucks, and then we ended up getting a warehouse facility, 40,000 square foot distribution center that we could distribute freight out of and do cross docking and do other aspects of the transportation industry. Because, just always thinking, I'm hardly ever just satisfied. And, and I didn't set out to be a business owner or do my own thing, but it just, the opportunity was there, and it was fun, and like it's another business to have a lot of pride in. I mean, you have to have pride in everything you do, whether you're cleaning pools or whatever you're doing. But I just love being around those big trucks, that big equipment, moving 80,000 pounds of produce, it was fun to me, but it got to the point where and we ended up starting a freight brokerage as well, and then we had a road service. So it just kind of grew into this kind of a monster. We had 25 employees and 15 trucks and 40,000 square foot warehouse, full road service, a freight brokerage, and it was getting to be where I was a half-ass business owner, and I was becoming a half-ass lineman because I was either on the phone or doing emails or worried about this, and part of it was safety. It's like, I can't be up here on this tower worrying that I got a truck late for an appointment, and like we were saying earlier, I said, well, I had that ticket in my hand, so I'm gonna, government. That was a dream job. That was where my grandfather retired from. Those guys are lifers there. They get there, and you retire once you get hired on a Department of Energy. You retire out of there, but I made the decision to. Well, no, so I drug up and went full time into the business, and just worked on building that, growing that, and around COVID, we had had some issues, kind of hurt us, and we've been evolving ever since. And now I got back into the trade about a year ago. Brandon got me on with where we're at now, and it our company here, American Power, they're a great outfit to work for. And but we just started downsizing. It was getting too much. Me and my wife had a daughter, and managing all those employees. At the end of the day, I'm just a lineman. I'm just, I'm not a CEO, entrepreneur, Mr. Business guy, and some of it just get to be too much. So with the market downturn, and then just trying to live my life, just trying to be with my wife and my daughter, and so we just slowly been kind of downsizing, and I think we grew kind of fast, and all the headaches weren't worth it. So yeah, we were making money and stuff, but it wasn't worth the stress and not seeing our daughter being gone. I was at that warehouse and for 12, 14 hours a day. So was my wife. She was getting raised by our in-laws and aunts, and we weren't even seeing her. And we're like, man, no, this ain't worth it. So we're still operating. We still have 6 trucks right now running. I still have the warehouse. We're still running the warehouse, but now I'm able to do line work. I've got good managers in place. We went from 25 employees to we've got about 8 employees now. They're all stand-up guys and gals, and it's kind of more self-operating now, where I'll have to do a phone call here and there, email here and there, but the job that I'm doing now for American Power, it allows me to do that. I'm not on a crew anymore. I'm more like a troubleman. So I'm by myself most of the day, or me and Brandon will team up and do some 2-man work. But I'm able to kind of, it's a perfect operation where I can do both. And from that trucking industry, when I was out of the trade for probably 2.5, 3 years. And like I said, I was happy to pay those dues because I knew I might have to go back, and I did. And we also started 2 other companies. We started 2 other online-based platforms. One's called truckerjobs.com, and they're completely web-based. And seeing having the headaches of those semi-trucks out on the road, you have one guy have a blowout, a front tire go out and smear a car of kids, or put one in a ditch, or you're hauling $100,000 of produce, and it's a lot of stress and being out there on the road, and everybody's sue happy nowadays. And there's so many lawsuits that are flying around, people brake checking trucks, and even having 5, 6 trucks on the road, it's sometimes it's hard to sleep at night knowing that these guys are all over the country. And so we're like, okay, well, we seen these voids in the industry where we couldn't find, when we had 15 trucks, guys, those truck drivers are a lot like linemen. They're gypsies. They'll drive for a little bit and go to a different company, and they like being out on the road. So we had issues filling the seats. We couldn't find drivers, and we had issues buying and selling equipment. They had issues with connecting with insurance companies, fuel card companies. There wasn't a central place for the trucking industry to find drivers. Well, people think, oh, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn. Truck drivers, they're not on ZipRecruiter. Right. They're not, blue collar guys they don't even know what that is. Yeah. They're not on, and just like linemen, you're not looking for a lineman job on LinkedIn. And so me and my wife, we've been spending about the last 2 years developing trucker jobs, and it's a mix between Facebook and LinkedIn, where it's just for the trucking industry. So there's groups on there that people can talk and communicate. The platform itself looks a lot like Facebook, where it's a scroll. Well, the drivers can post themselves, their resume, their experience. Hey, I'm in Texas. Hey, I'm in Oklahoma. Hey, I want to do local runs, or I want to do over the road stuff. And it also gives a platform for trucking companies. There's over 70,000 trucking companies out there. A lot of people, they see the Swifts and the big brands, but there's more 1 or 2 to 5 trucking companies than anything else out there. That makes 80% of the market are these small family-owned fleets, and that's who people want to work for. And it's just getting those people connected, helping those small, medium-sized fleets find drivers, and having drivers get paid what they're worth, and finding those small, medium-sized fleets. And also it allows different vendors and insurance companies and road services all to talk and communicate. So we soft launched that beginning of this year. We're already up to, I think today we just hit over 400 members. We just started pushing marketing here in the last month or so hard, and we've gotten some good results. But going back to line work, never, when I joined the apprenticeship, never did I see myself in 15 years owning a fleet of 25 trucks and a 40,000 square foot warehouse. But I've worked for probably 10 different companies as a lineman, from small mom and pop shops I was the only lineman, me and an apprentice, to these big corporate companies, and everywhere in between. And I seen how they operate. I seen them lease trucks and buy trucks, and just not knowing that's what I wanted to do, but I seen how businesses operate, and I seen how people manage people, and how business is conducted, along with how to drive a truck and how to manage these truck drivers. And it's, I'm when I quit doing the line work for a while, I went and I was doing my own deliveries. I went and got in a truck, and I was driving and making deliveries, and because I got that experience from doing line work. I was 19 years old hauling D6 dozers across Texas. It was loaded backwards. They could have put me out of service, but I was able to drive it, and I can see that in a lot of different ways with line work. A lot of people, they get into the trade and that's all they do. They kick their feet up on the lineman and that's it, and which is great. That's awesome. But you just apply yourself and look for opportunities out there. You can take what you learn from the hard work to the electric, EV vehicles have been popular. I know some linemen that started installing EV chargers, and they got a trade doing that, or doing linemen that do heavy hauling where they raise the power lines up for these big trucking companies. And so getting in the trade, it can open up a bunch of other doors. It's fine being a lineman. You make a damn good living, but you learn a lot of stuff too that you can apply and do other things with.
I think it also helps you, like, it gives you that opportunity to take a risk, right? Because say the trucking industry doesn't, or your company doesn't take off like it did. Hey, got my ticket.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's right.
Let's go make some money.
Exactly.
you guys definitely have a security blanket that nobody else can say that they have.
Yeah,
that's right.
And one of the big things that I like about the trade is there's no cap. Like, if you want to make $500,000-$600,000, you're gonna work for it, obviously. But you can go to California. There's linemen that are making $500,000-$600,000 a year. You can go somewhere and make 200. Like, what you put in, you can get out. Is what I'm saying. And like, if you're ever down and out and you need to save money, or you want to buy something like an investment, like, you can. Like, all right, this year. I'm going to go work. I'm going to bust my ass. And overtime and all that is a lot of, like nurses and all other trades. They're not really handing out a lot of overtime. Like,
you guys have probably as much as you want to take.
I mean,
it's out there for sure.
It's
out there. The work's out there.
Yeah.
You just got to go get it. For you, Kai, do you plan on expanding your business to go a little bit more now, or now that you got your managers and stuff in place, or are you kind of satisfied where you're at?
Yeah, like I said, we were trying to take over the world there for a while. We wanted to be the next big thing, the next Swift, the next Knight. But like I said, we got up to over a dozen trucks, the risk that isn't worth the squeeze. The unfortunately, the freight industry, it's not paying like it used to per mile, and there's just a lot of risks there. So we've kind of downsized, and we like that, and I think that we could make a good living off of that. It's a good supplemental income, and we're just operating now, and we kind of like the size we're at now, but we're really going all in on the online based platforms where there's no risk there. I don't have to worry about someone brake checking my online platform and suing me. And then I just love line work. I see myself doing line work no matter what happens with these other businesses. I'm just going to keep doing line work. I love it. It gets me outside and out of the house, just that's what really satisfies me, is doing line work. But I also like starting something from scratch, building it and seeing it develop, and seeing what you can do and how to evolve it, and making something from scratch, there's a lot of satisfaction that comes from that
Yeah.
too.
It's kind of like what we're trying to do here, huh?
Well, entrepreneurship is scary. I mean, the reality is everybody glorifies it, right? Like, oh, you've owned a couple of businesses and you have all this stuff going on, right? Like, people talk to us all the time. They're like, you know, the podcast is great. And then, Nate, you have all these other things going on. And then you're working full time. And, you know, yeah, it's exciting. But it's also, like you were saying, there's a lot of nights where I lay in bed going, Jesus, like, is it too much, right? Like, what is the juice worth the squeeze when you go back to talking about what it does? You know, Sam and I talked about it last night at dinner. Every time I do something like this, it takes away from her and the kids.
Yep.
So it's really finding the balance, no different than when you guys were talking about your travel. Like, hey, I can go travel for the next year and I'm going to make a piss load of money. But what is the impact at home when I'm not there,
Yep.
right? Not only what am I missing, but what is needed from me that I may not even be understanding.
So you guys ask us questions. If we ask, like, why this platform? Like, how'd you come about it? What made, I know you said you like to hear and learn different ways, but like ultimately is that what drove you guys, or was it something else? Like, why?
For me, I don't know. I just like creating something, you know,
Okay.
kind of like what like Kai was saying is like starting something and creating something to make it big or whatever. Now I have no expectations of this being big,
Right.
you know, but I mean, I like talking to people, you know, I like hanging out with Nate. I mean, a lot of our conversations outside of this are kind of like what they are now, you know, kind of random and just fucking around, messing around a lot. And then I remember Nate mentioning something about starting a podcast at one point when we were hanging out. And that kind of like sparked my interest in starting this. And then we were at dinner one night and I was like, you know, obviously me being random, like, hey, you want to start a podcast? He's like, yeah, what are we going to call it? And I already had this name, dude, you know, so.
Yeah, well, and I've done a lot of public speaking, and I've been on radio shows and stuff like that. And he was like, hey, you mentioned a podcast before. Let's do it. And I was like, no, fuck it. Yeah, why not? What do you want to call it? And he's like, Rad.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So I grew up racing BMX, right? We were talking about that before. So I instantly was like, 80s movie,
Heck yeah.
Rad. Like, so the original design was actually that Rad look, right? And then I was like, well, what does Rad stand for? And he's like, well, it was going to be Random Ass Dads. And I'm like, well, we're out west, right? We all ride horses, and we're always talking about the donkeys and shit that are out here. And we're like, Random Ass Dudes, right? Like, let's, you know.
If you look at our banner right here,
it's us.
It literally.
Yeah.
Well, so he sent me the cover of Rad,
Mhm.
right? And so I went on to Chat GPT, and it went from that cover to this.
Yeah.
Just from like doing like, you know, I want this in there, I want that in there, put 2 donkeys in there,
Well,
put a skull.
who's who though?
That's me laughing at Shane
Yeah.
all the time, right? That's him
You already
saying
know.
something stupid, and then that's me always laughing at his
that
ass.
The big old nostrils.
I had to.
I know.
But the reason I wanted to do it, honestly, was being that I'm so involved in the trades as well, but I'm on the other side of it, is I think that there's a missing platform for people just to tell their story,
Yeah.
right? So, like, whenever I've done public speaking events, people come up to me at the end and they're like, the way that you personalize it and you just tell a story is what makes people pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to thinking about that when he brought this podcast thing up, and I was like, I literally want people to come on and just talk. No agenda, no script. And, you know, Joey said it on the last one. He's like, none of this is scripted. You guys are here. None of this was scripted. We weren't talking about it outside like before we jumped in here. But
Yeah, we literally just flew right into it. I was a little nervous at first. I'm like, are we gonna talk about stuff or?
Yeah.
But I always think about it like, you know, influencing the next generation. I'm big into that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we were at church yesterday and they were like talking about coaching the next generation, and I instantly signed up because that's just who I am. But I think about like Drake and Hayden and, you know, even my kids, Tyler and Kayla, and you got Peyton and Zeke and your guys' kids. This is just a platform that maybe someday they're going to see it and be like, you know what? I want to go be a lineman, or I want to go be a police officer, or I want to go into sales, or, you know, it's just another way for people to just tell a story and talk
Mm-hmm.
and capture an audience that says, listen, I didn't even know that was an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think it's amazing.
Yep.
I was excited. We talk about it every day, just like for what it stands for. Like, because like even our industry, I mean, they got podcasts out there, but like what you get, like you're normalized. We're just normal people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
we're
So
not.
are we.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, we're just normal dudes.
And just having a conversation, but like the information being put off is so valuable because I wish I could listen to a podcast and be like, oh, if I do exactly what they did
Right.
with it, and there's different options that they're given, I could become a lineman.
Mm-hmm.
I think versus now, like they know OnlyFans, they know TikTok, they know like nobody's talking like when you like, oh, I'm gonna be a welder or I want to be a lineman
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
there's none of that. It's like, oh, I want to be a streamer or
Right.
like
Yeah.
and all these trades that have built America, like years down the road, I mean, if it doesn't get fixed, we're going to be outsourcing everything
Yes.
or we're screwed.
Yeah.
And and like you said, right now, because everything runs in cycles, but if you get in right now to any trade for that matter, or pick a spot, like it's going to be very lucrative. Like it's just because you need it. It's not going anywhere. Like
Yeah.
line where always raise every year, raise. Like
And don't come in the trades thinking like you're gonna, because I know I've heard linemen coming in, they top out, and then they feel like I could be a foreman. I want to be a foreman. I want to do this. It's like, bro, like you gotta be in your tools for a little bit to,
yeah.
But I think this platform allows that story to be told, right? That most don't know.
Right.
In thinking, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to start a career and that's just what I'm going to do. And then you think about the opportunities that it's created for you. And I've had my opportunities in the lifestyle that allows us to go back and build.
Right.
So you mentioned lifestyle earlier. Let's be honest. None of us, if we would have told ourselves back in high school, hey, this is where you're going to be at in 20 or 25 years, we would have said you are totally full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I know I was a complete knucklehead.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I ran into my aunt like 5 months ago and she's like, Nate, I would have thought you were going to be dead or in prison.
Yeah.
And that's no bullshit,
Mhm.
right? I ran with the wrong crowds. I was doing the wrong stuff. And then where we're at today, I mean, the four of us sitting here, everybody's successful, but not arrogant about it,
Mhm.
right? Like, and the platform is really to say, listen, you can do it too, right? It's just a matter of how much effort you're willing to put in. And you got to surround yourself with people like us. Like,
Mhm.
you're not where you're at today because you just individually went out and did something. You surrounded yourself with the right people to influence you to go in the right direction. And that's really what this is about. And this is about influencing all gamuts of life, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we got rodeo people, we've got musicians, we've got linemen, we've got police officers. I mean, you're going to hear the wives talk about some random ass shit,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But it's, but that's really what this is. The random ass is not just part of a banner. It really is.
yeah, yeah. I agree. Well said, Nate. It just reminds me of your calves.
Oh, man,
Yeah.
here we go.
Uh,
Every show.
Yeah. Yeah, you called it.
I told you. It's every show.
Wait, can we show? Can we show him?
I'm not sure.
I will get a picture and
put
just have
it
Sam
on
throw it
social
on
media.
It's
there.
gonna take up this whole TV. It's just gonna be straight cat.
You know what we should do? We should start like an Instagram of Nate's calves,
Just my calves.
just wherever they're at.
Never-
Where's Nate's calves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, your sister-in-law did that fitness show, right?
Yeah.
And then Hayden's like, Nate should do this. He could win. I was like, I'll win legs all day long. It's the rest of me that I don't want to work that hard on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. It's the very first thing I noticed when I drove up was your legs. No homo. I was like,
Oh, I bet, dude.
I'm like, damn.
Brandon's always looking at
Well,
legs.
yeah, dude, his calves are ripped, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this guy doesn't.
Well,
skip
just right
weight.
over here when he was flexing.
Yeah,
on
I
us,
was
huh?
like, yeah.
Just on
Yeah.
my tippy toes. I wasn't flexing. No, but
That's
no,
been a
this
bare
has been
minimum.
awesome. Like, I've learned a lot. It's been great to, Brandon, we knew each other. Kai, it's been great to get to know you. Hopefully we can continue to learn more about your guys' trades and have you guys on again in the future and, learn more about it. But, I think as far as I'm concerned, the episode's been great.
Yeah.
You guys definitely have a lot of respect for what you do. It's definitely a dangerous job, but it's a rewarding job. and it's allowed you guys to provide a really good life for your family. So
I got a random story.
okay, let's go random.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, this was part of my apprenticeship, and it's freaking funny. It's okay, Brad.
all right.
We won't tell them about your herpes or anything.
Oh,
No comeback? No? Are you sweating over there,
Yeah,
or is that your beard oil? No, so like we were in our like hot room, and they had poles up there, and there was this. Golly, you all right? Are you all right?
yeah, I am.
Okay. And there's this apprentice up there, right? And I was his groundman, and he like hollers down to me. He goes, "Hey Shane," I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Give me that carabiner down there." And I look up. I'm like, "What'd you call me?" He's like, "Nothing. Can you give me that carabiner?" I was like, "Why'd you call me that?" "Call you what?" I'm like, "Well, what do you need?" He goes, "Give me that carabiner." I'm like, "Stop calling me that," you know? And then finally, like within like 10 seconds, he's like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
dude." That was good.
That sounds absolutely like
That-
a
yeah.
conversation with Shane.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's Shane.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And about the trade, real quick, now that you say that, I got to bring
Dude,
it up.
we're just trying to close it down.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway,
Hold
no,
on.
go ahead.
It's very diverse, wouldn't you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
Like, there's African American, there's Mexican, there's white people, there's
Oh, yeah.
Chinese, Asian. Like, I've seen it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I just thought I'd just say that.
Told you it was random.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
guys. Well, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Again, make sure you tune in, follow these guys. Thank you for coming on and sponsoring the episode and just spending time with us today. So really look forward to getting to know you guys a little more in the future.
Yeah,
thank
thanks
you
for having
guys.
us.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right, guys.
You, friends, everyone's gonna be friends. And plus, you better ride like you ride.